She's dying, and you're killing her. Nyla Brooks's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. 5 paramedics froze. The black maid, still holding a mop, still in her uniform, still invisible to everyone in this mansion until 30 seconds ago, stood in the doorway of the nursery, staring at the dying baby in their hands. Tracy Vale, 6 months old, lips turning purple, eyes rolling back. Her mother, Eliza, was on her knees, hands pressed against her mouth, choking on screams that wouldn't stop coming. Her father, Preston, billionaire, untouchable, the man whose signature bought senators, stood paralyzed, useless, powerless. For the first time in his life, money couldn't save him. The paramedics worked faster, oxygen, compressions, needles, tubes. Tracy's chest barely moved. "Time of death," one paramedic started. "No!" Nyla's voice wasn't loud, but it shattered everything. She stepped forward. "You're treating a disease. She doesn't have a disease. Ma'am, we need you to—" Something is inside her mouth, blocking her airway. You're pumping oxygen into a closed system. The lead paramedic's eyes darted to Nyla's face, then to the baby's blue lips. 1 second. 2. He made the call. They changed everything. Suction, different angle, fingers searching her tiny throat, and then Tracy screamed. Not the cry of a sick baby, the scream of a child whose lungs just remembered how to breathe. Eliza collapsed. Preston fell to his knees. The paramedics exhaled like they'd just survived something none of them understood. But Nyla didn't move. Because across the hallway, 3 staff members stood perfectly still. Doreen, Alex, Rowan Pike. And their faces, God, their faces, weren't relieved. They were furious, like someone had just ruined their plan. In that moment, Nyla understood. This baby wasn't sick. She was poisoned. And the woman who just saved her life, she just painted a target on her own back. Because some secrets in this house were worth killing for. And someone had just tried.
Hey family, welcome back. If you've been walking with us on this journey, I want you to know something. Your presence here isn't just appreciated, it's felt. Like a hand on the shoulder when the weight gets heavy. Like a witness to the stories that need telling. And if this is your first time here, pause for just a second. Close your eyes if you need to. Because you didn't accidentally click this video. Somewhere in your spirit, something whispered, "This one matters." Maybe you've been the invisible person in the room. Maybe you've walked past someone who desperately needed to be seen. Maybe you're carrying something so heavy you wonder if anyone would even notice if you put it down. God sees you, right now, right here. This story isn't just about a maid who saved a baby's life. It's about every person the world taught us to overlook. Every voice we dismissed because it didn't come from someone with power or status. Every moment we looked past the person who turned out to be exactly who we needed. And maybe, just maybe, you're here because your soul is tired of being invisible too. So if this story touches something deep in you, if you feel your heart crack open just a little, don't let this moment pass. Subscribe. Not because it helps me, but because God might be using this to remind you that you matter, that your voice counts, that being seen starts with seeing others. All right, family, let's begin. 30 minutes earlier, the Vale mansion had been silent. Now, it was chaos. Eliza Vale's scream tore through marble hallways as she ran barefoot, clutching Tracy, her baby girl, turning blue in her arms. The 911 call brought 5 paramedics in under 4 minutes. They moved with precision, confident, clinical, equipment everywhere. Preston Vale, the man who owned half of Manhattan, stood frozen against the nursery wall, powerless. His money meant nothing here. Commands flew: check her airway, start compressions, get the oxygen mask. But across the room, unnoticed, Nyla Brooks stood in the doorway, mop still in her hand, uniform still damp from cleaning, watching. Her eyes locked on Tracy's mouth, on something the paramedics hadn't seen yet. And then, barely a whisper, "I've seen this before."
Nobody heard her. The paramedics worked faster. Oxygen mask, compressions, medication through an IV thinner than thread. Tracy's breathing got worse. Nyla's hands trembled around the mop handle. She'd seen this before. Newark, 1997. Her cousin's baby. Same blue lips, same desperate adults missing the obvious. "Excuse me," she started. A paramedic waved her off. "Ma'am, please step back." She tried again. Her mouth. "We've got this." But they didn't. Tracy was fading. Eliza's eyes found Nyla's, drowning, begging. Nyla dropped the mop. "She's not sick. Something's blocking her airway." The lead paramedic froze, then nodded. They changed course. Suction. Different angle. Seconds crawled. Then Tracy cried. Real. Loud. Alive. The room collapsed in relief. But Nyla stood frozen, realizing what just happened. The invisible woman just saved everything. How many times have you spoken up and been ignored? How many times have you known the answer but stayed silent because you didn't think anyone would listen? Nyla almost let that baby die because the world taught her she didn't matter. But God doesn't measure worth by job titles or bank accounts. He measures it by hearts willing to speak truth when it costs them everything. If you've ever been dismissed, overlooked, or told to stay in your place, this story is for you. And if it's stirring something in your spirit right now, subscribe. Not for me, but because you need to remember, your voice has power, even when the world pretends it doesn't. But the relief didn't last. Hospital tests came back hours later. A rare compound in Tracy's system, something that didn't belong anywhere near a baby. Nyla couldn't shake what she'd seen. 3 staff members, Doreen, Alex, Rowan Pike, hadn't panicked during the emergency. They'd watched, waiting, like they expected it. That night, Nyla cleaned rooms she wasn't assigned to. Her hands found a locked basement cabinet. Inside, fake IDs, court documents, yellowed newspaper clippings. Factory explosion kills 8. Vale Industries accused of negligence. One name appeared everywhere. Preston Vale. Her stomach dropped. The 3 staff members were siblings. Their father died in that explosion. And suddenly, Nyla understood. Tracy was never the target. This was about revenge. And it wasn't over. Before dawn, Nyla confronted them in the basement. The siblings didn't deny it. "He cut corners, ignored safety reports. Our father burned alive so Preston Vale could save money." 15 years of rage poured out. The plan, the sedatives in Eliza's tea to keep her foggy, the compound slipped into Tracy's bottle. Preston stood in the doorway, listening, really listening, for the first time in his life. Then his voice cracked. "I'm dying. Stage 4 cancer. 6 months, maybe." The room deflated. Revenge suddenly felt hollow. Nyla stepped forward, the least powerful person there, and spoke. This won't bring him back, but the truth might save someone else. Silence. Grief. Guilt. Rage. All colliding. And in that moment, everything shifted. There's a moment in every broken story where you get to choose. Will you let the pain turn you into something you're not? Or will you let God transform it into something that heals others? The siblings chose revenge. Preston chose silence. But Nyla, the woman with nothing to gain and everything to lose, chose truth. And that's when redemption became possible. If you're watching this and you're stuck between anger and healing, between bitterness and grace, let this be your sign. God didn't bring you this far to leave you in the darkness. Subscribe if you need that reminder. If your heart is tired of carrying what was never yours to carry. Because healing doesn't start when the pain ends. It starts when you decide the pain won't define you.
Preston confessed everything publicly. The factory case reopened, corruption exposed, a foundation created in the dead worker's name. The siblings turned themselves in, not as monsters, but as broken people who'd waited too long to heal. Preston Vale died 6 months later, but Tracy lived. And Nyla? No fame, no fortune, no spotlight, just recognition. Eliza saw her now, really saw her. Tracy grew up knowing the woman who saved her life. Years later at Tracy's high school graduation, Nyla sat in the front row, not as the help, as family. Because sometimes the person who saves everything is the one no one thought mattered, the one the world trained us not to see, until God made sure we couldn't look away. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Not because I need the views, but because someone in your life is Nyla right now. Someone is invisible, overlooked, wondering if they matter at all. And maybe, just maybe, sharing this story is how God uses you to remind them, I see you. You matter. Your voice counts. Subscribe if you believe stories like this can change the way we see each other. If you believe that every person, no matter how invisible the world makes them, carries something sacred inside. Because the kingdom of God isn't built by the loudest voices or the wealthiest hands. It's built by people like Nyla. People like you. People willing to speak truth when everyone else stays silent.